in the Roman Empire, and the Hunger Games, those in charge used bread and circuses to distract the masses from caring about the oppressed or working for justice. What are the distractions in our world that might keep us from responsibly working for a better world for everybody? What are our circuses and our fortunes? Okay?
Sports.
Huh? I still didn't hear sports. We're going to second service because Packers aren't playing till 3:30.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
Ultimate fighting?
Oh, yeah.
Pardon me?
Ultimate fighting?
Oh, that's,
so
yeah.
brutal in the
Okay,
cage.
yeah.
Possessions.
Possessions,
Consumer culture.
yeah, the consumer culture, okay.
Technology.
What's that?
Technology.
Keeping gas prices low, so that we don't think about the price of those lower prices.
All right, okay, I don't know if you heard what Leslie said, but cheap, addictive food. Yeah, yes. All right. Now, this next question I think is maybe a little more complex. Okay, Jesus gives us this upside down version of what the kingdom of God is. I mean, upside down from our thinking. That's countercultural. Jesus talks to the woman at the well. Jesus eats with, well, actually, you can give me some examples. Where is Jesus countercultural?
That's the wrong of the unclean.
All right,
Such as lepers.
yep,
Going over the tables in the temple.
yep. All right,
Healing on the Sabbath.
yes,
Talking to the children.
valuing the children, yes. All right. Where did you see Katniss being countercultural in the Hunger Games?
She befriended the little girl.
Rue. Mhm.
She went up against them, that's later. She went up against the establishment.
She did, yeah, she opposes the establishment.
She hunts and provides for food for herself and for others.
She was herself in the training sessions and in the interview.
She is tempted. We're introduced to that in the very first chapter where she tries to drown the cat with her sisters.
Yep,
You
yep.
remember Kitty?
She is not a good little soldier. And she can't be. It's not in her nature. It is just not in her nature to do everything.
She's not a rules follower.
She isn't, no. So the question here then, how can we, as part of the dominant culture, live counterculturally? Do you want to take a second and talk to somebody around here, or do you want to just keep talking to everybody?
Talking to
Okay, all right. Yeah, all right.
Just repeat the question.
Yep.
Marie.
I sure will. It's this last question here. How can we, as part of the dominant culture, live counterculturally? Yeah, Tammy.
I saw like and I don't remember the details of it, a clip about the man in India who touches the very poor. And they were talking about that, like, how important it is to those people that he physically touches them. And I wish that I was capable of physically touching the people in our culture that are seen as unclean or but just to physically touch people who are outcasts, who none of us do it, we barely touch each other.
Did everyone hear it? Because it was wonderful. Okay.
Yes, can I just respond to that? There's opportunities, but you have to take yourself outside your comfort zone. We're members at 2 churches, and the other church is right near the rescue mission. We have a sharing of the peace every Sunday, and you hug everybody, and half of the congregation is from the rescue mission, and these are people who probably don't have hugs throughout the week.
Or you can go to Madison and participate in this new establishment that's called
Oh, the
Therapy.
the cuddle house.
That's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
No, that's another thing.
Okay. Sue.
I just think that you can make choices, I guess, in your own life, and maybe that's what everyone is saying, that, and it doesn't have to be the big things, because that can be what discourages you. It can be deciding what's important to you and what you're passionate about, and then just making a little choice and change, and then being willing to, like, stand up for it. And personally, as we've educated ourselves more on food here, I mean, I'm kind of learning a lot more about food, and my family's very resistant, and they make fun of me every time I say I'm only eating grass-fed beef. It just is the only thing that feels right to me now. But I think it's about making a choice and then just sticking with it. And that can be hard, but that's how all of us together make a difference. It's not by dreaming about the big thing that we wish we could do.
All right. Yes, Doris.
I think the whole care for creation and trying to take a different look at our world and our environment and not doing what everybody's been doing and trying to make a statement about doing something different than the way the culture has done it as far as the environment is concerned.
All right.
Going against the counterculture is becoming countercultural.
All right.
Trade.
Okay.
Reusing things.
Gordon?
Just one more ministry program is countercultural. People taking time out of their lives to prepare and collect food to feed those that need it.
And I think I read that in the US, numbers don't stick in my head very well. 40%? 40% of our food is thrown away.
And really,
40%.
yes, we're being countercultural, but it's those companies that are giving us the free food that are really being countercultural, because it goes against their profit. I'm sorry, but it doesn't make sense as a business person to give your product away. I mean, there are still companies in the US that will rip up a shirt before they would ever give it away for free.
Let's get a tax rate.
Thank you, Addie.
That's
Think about that. What Sandix and Target and Rocket Baby and Saz's, yes, Saz's, who was the mothership.
Yeah.
What they're doing. I'm gonna give a couple women over here and then I'll come back to you, Tanya. Okay, Judy.
I think another thing is, and this kind of goes over into politics, but the city of Milwaukee and the school system, why can't it be something done about it? And maybe that means that we have to vote out people that run it, or do something about it, that so many of our children in this city aren't getting a decent education, to me is criminal, and it just frustrates me that we can't do something about that. That is worse than not feeding them, I guess, I don't know. But that's one of my big things in my head that is so wrong.
Thank you. And Helen?
Well, there are people that work on Mondays to package food. And I'm sorry to say that may be a reason for us to be puffed up. We had an example last Monday that took us right down. And that was a young man who uses his own money to make sandwiches and pass lunch out to the homeless under the bridges and at bus stops. So he's from the inner city, right? So we can learn even more than we think we do now.
On two levels there, what he's doing is countercultural, but oh my goodness. Blessed are the poor, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven.
I
Chris found this young man, and he is now giving him some food to add to what he's doing. But he's using his own money.
And yet there are still rules and regulations, and I'm being a little cynical here, but, you know, there are rules and regulations about food. John used to work for when Aurora's V&A still did their mobile meals program, and it was an issue of they went out and dispensed all of these meals, and however many people were not home, John had the option then to do whatever with that food. But then there were FDA rules and regulations that came in and said, well, you can't just do anything with that food because we can't sell it or give it away or do something with it because it's only X number of hours old. So while I'm very appreciative of the places that do give their day old, and yes, they could sell it as day old, things like that, there are so many rules and regulations. You know, when I worked in fast food, it was the same thing. We were forced to throw things away because absolutely, somebody gets something bad, and so there are all kinds of issues.
We had so much trouble getting this
Well,
thing.
you just regress.
Okay. There we go.
Yes, Trey.
Maybe to that aspect though, the counterculture part comes in, then when you see that, you start the small movements to address those rules and change those.
Yes, I agree, and I'm hoping that as a whole, that the counterculture, the people who are now doing more of the green movement and the grow your own and the buying local and all of that, that is becoming almost more the cultural norm. So we're, you know, slowly changing.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And Trey.
Well, and I think the key point is that change normally comes in very, very small steps. A flood starts from a few leaky faucets, and rarely do major changes come all at once. So it's the changing that one light bulb at home into an LED, and many people doing it, where you start to see an effect, or picking any other thing that happens. It takes lots of small incremental changes to affect the overall picture.
And Jason.
In our country, it almost seems like you could replace the word countercultural with counterprofitable. Because if you think about it, the one thing that keeps everybody from acting on all these good ideas is cost. I mean, why don't we have all grass-fed beef? Because it's a lot cheaper to feed than corn and pumpkin full of antibiotics. Why don't we have free-range chickens? Well, because you need a lot of space for that, and you have to be able to get rid of the manure. You know, why don't we have organic food? Well, that's more nutritious. Well, because, you know, it's easier to just pump it full of pesticides, and it's more profitable to make somebody buy your seed every single year rather than being able to clean their own seed. You know, why doesn't everybody have health care? Well, because our country has sick care, not health care, because it's set up as a for-profit system. So, I mean, if the thing is the people who have the money are the only ones whose countercultural movements are going to make a big splash, unless every single person does it. But, you know, to that effect, even though there are more people as far as on the lower consumer levels, you have to make it affordable, you have to make it easy to understand, and you have to make it available. And those are all top-down kind of changes.
So are you talking against capitalism?
In a way, yes. You can't, a purely capitalistic system is the opposite of Jesus' upside-down kingdom, where people are seen in capitalism as a means to an end, right? You have human resources, and profit is seen as the end, and your human resources are geared toward helping that end. Whereas, instead of capital being seen as that which makes people's lives better, you see people's labor as that which makes the capital's lives better. So it's completely bass backwards.
Doesn't it also need their life there?
Only if you subscribe to this very, this trickle down sort of, myth that, eventually the scraps from the table of the wealthy get down to those who, are dependent on them for their job creation, which is really just wealth creation. The necessity for labor is just a side effect of having to make product.
Well, okay, let me, let me just frame this in a way that, make it a little more personal, but also I'm casting corporate. Think about the time in your life when you were absolutely filled with joy. Think of a time in your life when you were just filled with joy. Can you all come up with one? Does it have anything to do with what you own? It might be just a little glimpse of the kingdom of heaven. Because I'm betting it's a time when you were connected with other people and, you know.
There are two things that you mentioned about giving your products away. There is a company that does that, and they do it for a reason, a number of companies. Those are the cigarette companies. Because fewer and fewer people are smoking here in America, but in Southeast Asia, they leave free cigarettes on tables in nightclubs so that the young people there, and it's perfectly legal in those countries, will have cigarettes, and once they have cigarettes, they will, of course, need more cigarettes, and then they'll go out and buy them. But when you talked about the rich and the poor, it reminds me of the History Channel's The Men Who Built America. The four men who were so wealthy. Andrew Carnegie came to this country with nothing, and when he sold U.S. Steel to J.P. Morgan, he had, in today's money, he was worth $600 billion. That is a lot of money for one person to have. And then you had the Rockefeller, you had the Vanderbilt, and then you had Morgan. And these guys had basically half the wealth of this country in those four hands.
Okay, I'm gonna move us on if I may, please, because our time is ticking. So if I don't get a chance to say this to you at the end, thank you for all of your input here. You guys are so smart. Okay, I'm gonna look now at blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Again, how can mourning be a blessing?
Connects you with others. Connects you to lean on someone usually.
Can you repeat the answers?
Yes, sure. It connects you with others. We're vulnerable.
Forces you to focus on your connection with God and other people, and not on the things of society that get in the way.
Yep.
Materialism.
We're dealing with it right now. A good friend of mine whose 14-year-old was killed recently. And she's been blogging a little bit about all the blessings in her life right now. It's making her very, very aware of kind of how fragile life is and everything that she does have. It's helping her really kind of refocus. Yes, she's lost her daughter. Her daughter's gone, but thinking about all the things that she does have. And almost every day she's writing I'm so blessed for somebody helping me take the garbage to the curb. I'm so blessed that somebody brought me dinner last night. So.
Carl and I were recently in New York, and we went to a play called The Preacher and the Shrink. And I know, we're a very small demographic, but this was made for us, this play. And the preacher had lost his wife to cancer and had never know how to mourn her. You know, he was the preacher. And it had completely broken his relationship with his adult daughter because she felt that he had just, you know, shoved the wife aside. And, you know, I mean, and that really brought it home to me, how necessary mourning is and how harmful it is to us when we can't mourn. So let's look a little bit at mourning. I think I'm gonna skip that second question right now. This was something I learned over the last couple of weeks, that the crucifixion, I mean, you know, the criminals were crucified, and think about that the norm was to leave the body on the cross until it was completely decomposed. That Joseph was able to pay for a tomb for Jesus, you know, probably it was a bribe, but that was not the norm. So for anyone who was crucified, there was no mourning, no ritual mourning allowed. And this other little fact, that because the Roman Empire wanted to repopulate the citizens, if a husband died, a woman only had a certain amount of time before she was fined if she didn't remarry. That mourning her dead husband, you know, just had to stop. Can you think of places in the Hunger Games where mourning was aborted?
Well, I can think of where it was supposed to be aborted in the first book, when Rue dies. And Katniss mourns her, like, very quickly before the hovercraft comes to take her body away, as sort of a memorial for her, and then also a public spectacle that basically sparks off the rest of the series.
But I thought the Capitol didn't broadcast it, did they?
No.
Because PETA, remember PETA drew a picture of Rue with the flowers on her. And I think that was how they remembered, but I don't think the people were allowed.
I think the people from her district
Did
somehow
they?
found
They
out
did,
about
okay.
it.
And I trust your memory better than I.
No, maybe, well,
Yeah.
Well, I think mourning, and it's not even presented in the book, or certainly not in the movie, but I would think certainly Katniss's mother going through the mourning of, first her youngest daughter is chosen to be in the Hunger Games, then her oldest daughter chooses to go in her place, she's certainly mourning. And I think everybody in a district who's mourning the fact that they are forced to choose these two children to go.
But did the author, bring that out?
No, that's what I said, I didn't think that it was.
That's your understanding.
That's well, but that's just I mean, as we're talking about, where is their mourning?
But you think that was logical, but in reading the Hunger Games, you don't feel that
No.
mourning.
No,
In
you
fact,
don't.
how are they forced to treat the Hunger Games, the games themselves? Spectacle, excitement. Remember, everybody is required to watch. And it is, it's sold as celebration.
Wanted to say that they do talk about the mother's mourning in regards to the father dying.
Yes.
And she is not capable of mourning because there's no resources to help her family to give her that time.
You're right, I forgot about that, that
She
she's
is-
very much shut off.
She goes totally insane, and Katniss has to kind of take over the household. But if the society was set up better, they would have given her time and resources so that she could have healthily mourned.
You're right, that she really didn't even mourn when Katniss left, because except that she probably mourned the fact that Katniss wasn't there to help run the
She had to,
household.
she had to kind of step up a little bit.
But it is, mourning is one of the things that is stolen from the people.
We have no time or energy to do it.
Just want to, the question, how is mourning prevented in our world, this may be way off point, but, we had shock and whatever it was, going in Iraq. But we couldn't see the soldiers coming home to talk to us. And then we have just past Veterans Day, so we have ritualized one day. We should do it all one day and then get on with your life, damn it. Pardon me.
And we don't even skip school for that day.
Do you remember that, when the media was not allowed to film the coffins of the soldiers who came back from
Yeah,
Iraq?
and the whole counterculture started in Vietnam, because in Vietnam, we watched every day on television in real time what was going on, and people got really upset and uptight when they saw a Huey come along and fire a napalm bomb into a village. That was something that we never, our soldiers came back from World War II, and my father-in-law was one of the a young 19-year-old second lieutenant that liberated Dachau. And that affected him for a long time. He couldn't sleep, he never watches movies on TV, and he told me they crawled up and kissed his feet. He said, no man should kiss another man's feet. He said, this just tore me apart. 19 years old and has never seen anything like this.
And that's the age we send our kids.
Yeah, and we have never seen it until they showed it many, many years later on television. What happened?
Okay, did Jesus mourn?
Yeah.
The shortest, when you had to, when I was a kid, you had to memorize Bible verse. The shortest Bible verse is Jesus wept. Jesus didn't mourn. He mourned for his dear friend Lazarus, who died. And, I'm gonna just give you one more slide on mourning, and then I know we have to, okay, and I didn't want to quit before we dealt with this issue. One of the most common criticisms of the Hunger Games is the depiction of extreme violence. Is the remembering and depicting of violence and the harm it inflicts necessary? Mourning. What are the benefits and dangers of telling stories of the true cost of violence?
Well, I feel one of the dangers of talking to children about violence is that once you've gone there, you can't go back. There's an innocence too that I think deserves to be protected for some period of time. And perhaps it's a big choice for us to decide how long it's protected in our action.
If the author said she thought it was valuable to learn of all these wars that her father fought.
That was her, that was her,
But when
Yeah,
she,
and I don't
said
know.
all about the age, is she
Yeah.
talking junior high kids, middle school kids as children? Or is she talking about 4 and 5-year-olds? I mean, there, I think just because she's using the term children, she may be referring to children in 7th, 8th, 9th grade.
But it's hard as things get closer and closer and closer to home. There was a shooting at Children's on Thursday. I mean, yeah, I think it's really hard to keep things from children. At the same point, it becomes closer and closer and closer to home.
No, I think it's imperative that kids will learn about the violence that we have in our society. Society has become more violent, not just the media, but our response to protecting our homes now is to grab a gun, and it's like the laws are changing to make it easier to shoot someone in self-defense, and kids have to learn that, if they find a gun, that it's dangerous and things like that. It doesn't matter if they're 5 or they're 4. They're the ones that I'm more worried about picking up a weapon. So we have to recognize that. Now there's certain aspects, like we can't go into the whole horrors of war, but they have to understand that
that death is permanent and that guns are dangerous and that our society might be violent, but maybe it's countercultural to parent our kids not to be so violent, to understand that violence is real.
I think that's real important. What I don't think is important is to subject little children to intentional violence. Whether it's in TV or in movies or in video games. I think that's different from actually dealing with the violence in our world, that you're saying. They have to know about that. They have to know how to deal with it, but I don't think at 4 years old or 5 years old, or 6 or 7, we should be subjecting them to the artificial violence.
So all the parents here have had to talk to their kids about Sandy Hook and all of the violent things that have happened in our culture. But I would say most of those parents aren't showing their kids R-rated movies and things like that. So there's definitely these choices we have to make, but we can't shield our kids from violence. It's actually dangerous to shield them from violence, because we live in a violent society.
Thank you. And I'm gonna give Addie the last word here, and well, actually, I'll have the last word.
I just want to say, I'm the library assistant at the Wauwatosa Public Schools, and we do have the Hunger Games in the elementary schools, just in case anybody wants to complain.
That's why I saw my 10-year-old come home with it.
Yes. And here's what I say when they go to check it out, and I say it to their teachers as well. You need to have a conversation with your parents about you reading this book, okay? Because I don't censor books. Every family is different. And it's the parents to be involved in their child's life to know what they're reading. Okay, it's the parents' choice to know what their child is reading. But I guarantee you, 90% of the kids whose parents are worried about the Hunger Games have let them read or see other things that are much more violent than this book or this movie is, whether it be superheroes, so much stuff out there, and this has a lot of publicity, so parents are a little bit cautious.
I'm not angry, Addie. Actually, we don't have a TV in our house, and I'm very aware of what my kids read, and I saw that coming home, and I said, me first, and I read the whole trilogy in about a week and a half. And my daughters, you know, Autumn, have read the whole series and watched the movie.
Yeah.
And it's good, actually, that they do it with me, and
Right.
I know, we can talk about it together.
Right. And if only
But I have to make that decision.
Right.
You know.
Exactly.
But not every mother or father is making that decision. And aren't as involved as you.
Okay, there's some material leading up to the big finish that we didn't get to. But I do want to leave you with, let me tie it in this way. I'm sure all of us have mourned. And what do we need as we mourn? What gets us through it? Love, other people, hate, and I think hope. I just want to read you a short quote from Julie Clausen, who was the one who wrote this book that put the Beatitudes together with the Hunger Games. We won't bring about a perfect world, but it is still worthwhile to hunger and thirst after righteousness. It is still blessed to live in the ways of God's kingdom, to shine into the dark places of injustice and oppression, illuminating hope, embodying the call to love. Love involves the risk of suffering, but it is where one finds hope. So let your light so shine before others, that others may see your good works and glorify God. Be a little self.